I want Thanksgiving to be different. I don't want the holiday that takes heaps of planning and multiple trips to the grocery store, only for it to just come and go. This year, there's not a hug I'll receive, not a door I'll walk through, not a person I'll visit that will be taken for granted. I want Thanksgiving to be different. In times past, we'd say the obligatory Thanksgiving prayer, hold hands, bow heads, fight eager appetites. This year, I want to feel the hunger, the eagerness to thank God for what we once hardly noticed, a quiet gratitude in our hearts for all the small things God's granted us. Whether the whole family is together, whether there's one seat or two left empty, if our table is full and abundant or feeling the sting of a hard year, whether we've seen deliverance through all things or received strength despite hard things, we will give thanks. When all is well, or nothing looks right, if we've gathered with many, or sit in quiet solitude, by the grace of God, we will raise our hands to the one who gives and takes away. So I come to the table on this special day and give thanks to the Lord, for He is good. His steadfast love endures forever. That is how we make Thanksgiving different.
Have you ever been put in charge of something? Now, for some of us, the idea of being in charge sounds awesome. For others, you would much rather be in the background. But for me, I have always loved it. I remember when I was in high school, my sophomore year, I tried out to become the drum major in our marching band. Band nerds unite, right? Now, I tried out my sophomore year. I didn't make it that year, which would have been unheard of because we had never had a 3-year drum major. But I did try out again my junior year, and I was one of the 2 that were chosen, which means I gained a lot of authority really fast. Only thing was I didn't handle it so well and really kind of got a big head about some things. Didn't do so well in my initial responses to people on the field. Off the field was great. We could still be friends. But when we were on the field, people didn't like me so much when I first started. Now, I eventually learned, but having that kind of authority was a little bit tough for me to get through initially. That makes sense though. Being in authority kind of carries with it the temptation to become more and more controlling or bossy, all in the name of being seen as good and powerful and more important than others. Just think about what it felt like when you've experienced having a little bit of authority, when you're babysitting or at your job, if you're the oldest in your family and have leadership over your younger siblings, if you're the captain of your team or your first chair in your band and everybody's supposed to follow you, or if you're leading a club or you're looked to for advice by your friends. When people have to do what you say or rely on you in any way, it's tempting to want just a little more control, like just a little bit more power, right? But having authority is tricky because we all know what it's like when authority isn't used well. We can all list plenty of examples of bad authority figures, people who gave into the temptation to put others down so they could seem more elevated. We swear to ourselves that when we finally gain more power or more influence, more control, that we'll never abuse it like them. Okay, so we know what we're trying not to be like when the opportunity to have more authority comes up. But how can we make sure that as we gain more power and influence and opportunities to lead, that we're being the kind of leaders that we'd like to follow? How do we handle having authority in a world where putting others down is almost expected of people at the top? Well, according to Jesus, it's simple. It's not easy, but it's definitely simple. In fact, Jesus is the best example of how to use authority. Jesus was a regular guy, if you will, born in a small town in the Middle East, and yet 2,000 years later, we're still talking about him. Even people who don't believe he's the Son of God still can't help but notice the revolutionary things that he taught. Things that shook up the world and all of history. And a big part of that has to do with what he said and what he did when it came to power and people. All people. The people who liked him and the people who had him killed. People who followed him and people who betrayed him. People who believed he was the Son of God and people who thought he was crazy. Jesus, in his position of authority, used his power to do what nobody expected. He turned the world upside down when he used his power to turn regular fishermen into disciples or leaders who did ministry. When he used his power to heal people who were outcasts in society. When he used his power to do miracles on days where religious leaders thought rest was more important. When he used his power to value and elevate women in a society that disregarded and used women. In Matthew's account of Jesus' life, he writes down something Jesus said that covers everything we're talking about today. And Jesus is talking with the people in authority in ancient Israel, this group of guys called the Pharisees. Now, they were the religious leaders who held a ton of power and were always on a mission to try to discredit Jesus. They try to trip him up by asking tricky questions. In the conversation, one of them straight up asks Jesus, what was the most important thing for people to do when it comes to obeying God? And this is what the greatest authority, Jesus, says is the greatest thing we can do. Jesus replied, you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. A second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. The entire law and all the demands of the prophets are based on these 2 commandments. So Jesus is asked very directly, what is most important? And his response is so simple. Love God and love people. Now, wait a minute. For the 613 laws the Pharisees were following to a T, and encouraging other people to follow. There's no way it can be that simple. Well, the problem with the 613 laws was some of them left wiggle room. And the religious leaders were the ones with the power to determine exactly what these laws might mean. Take, for instance, the law that forbid working on the Sabbath. Someone had to determine just what counted as work. Was walking work? Was cooking work? Was riding a donkey work? Figuring out the answers to these types of questions was the Pharisees' entire job. As long as they were needed to interpret the laws, they could use these laws to tear others down. But then Jesus comes along saying, the power isn't in interpreting all these laws at all. The power is in loving God and loving people. In other words, in the upside down kingdom, power is for lifting up, not tearing down. See, real authority is supposed to be based in love, and using authority the right way is about loving God, loving yourself, and loving others well. Think about it this way. When you make sure to get a healthy amount of sleep, or keep relationships that make you better, or do your best to think kindly about yourself, that's loving yourself well. When you choose to honor your parents and respect your teammates and stand up for others, that's loving others well. And when you're living in ways that honor what God says is best, that's loving God. And we have options when it comes to using our authority. We can use our power in a way that harms others, or we can choose to lead with love. We can be part of an upside-down kingdom that uses power to build up and not tear down. Another way to say it is this: authority without love is just poorly used power. And power used poorly never ends well, for the person in power or the people under their authority. In fact, one of the most brilliant and courageous people in history summed up this idea like this: power without love is reckless and abusive, and love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love. That was by the one and only Martin Luther King Jr. And power used for good is loving. Love done well uses power for the purpose of bringing justice and peace to the world. And the good news is that God gives us everything we need to use our authority in the loving ways that He says are best. In fact, another writer named Paul, who was one of the most influential leaders in the early days of the Christian church, says it this way: "For God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline." God gives us all the power, love, and self-discipline we need to live the way that He says is best. And what does God say is best? To love Him, others, and yourself. That's the way of the upside-down kingdom. Now, this doesn't mean that we will get it right all the time, but it does mean that God gives us everything we need to get it right the next time we're given authority.
So power is like this hammer, all right? Now on its own, the hammer or your power, it's neither good nor bad. It's just a hammer, people, all right? But once it's in your hands, you determine how your power is used. You can use it to destroy, you can use it to cause harm, you can use it to tear other people down. So for example, let's say you see someone shining brighter than you. You say that one thing that snuffs them out, okay? Yep, see you later, all right? Or you notice the insecurities of others. You see where they're vulnerable, and you see an opportunity to hurt them even more to make yourself look more important than them. See the Band-Aids for their insecurities? Yep, bye. You see someone doing well, or winning, being celebrated by others, and you work hard to crush their success, okay? Bye. Now, here's the deal. You brag about you and your status, yeah, all that. You ignore the needs of others, and on and on. You compare others to your popularity, your number of followers in a way that makes others feel small, okay? All you, yeah, gone. Now, I'm gonna slide all of you over, and I'm gonna bring up a different way that we can use our power, okay? You can use it to build up, to choose love, to repair, and to serve. You can use your time to serve others. You make good grades, tutor someone. You're naturally athletic, coach someone. Your family's stressed, help clean and organize something. Your church running online services and need more volunteers, then volunteer, people, all right? That's what you can do. Or you can choose to care. right? You can have empathy to step into the challenges other people are facing. You can use your influence with your following to celebrate others or to bring awareness to issues that affect someone other than yourself. That's what you can build. You can build something totally different with your power. You can use your power to act. You have extra cash? Sponsor someone's prom tickets. You see someone being picked on? Stand with them or DM them that you will be a safe place for them. That's what you can build. I missed the nail that time, okay? There, got that. See, power is powerful, and we all have some amount of it, but you have a choice to make about how you use it. You can use your power to build up, or you can use your power to tear others down.
What we do with authority is important. Authority has the potential to be a powerful tool that helps others, and it also has the potential to be a powerful tool to treat people in harmful ways. In the upside down kingdom, power is for lifting up, not tearing down. If we want to make sure we use any power we have in a healthy way, there are a couple steps we can all take the next time we find ourselves in a position of authority. We can start by choosing to use authority well for others. Think about the way Jesus used his authority. He didn't use his power selfishly, disregarding those around him. Instead, he chose to use his authority to show his love for all people. In fact, it was that love that took him to the cross. With all the power in the world, he laid it down so we might not miss the overwhelming message of love God has for us. And we would see up close the best use of power is when it's used to serve others. Jesus demonstrated this power through love for his closest followers and his most intense enemies. He used his power in a way that brought justice and peace and hope to the entire world. And now we're supposed to do the same. We are supposed to use any power we have to bring this upside down kingdom to the world around us. Use authority well for yourself. Use your authority to learn to lead yourself to make wise choices on a daily basis and have integrity to be the same person in private that you are in public and to prioritize your mental and physical health. When you lead yourself well, leading others starts to come naturally. And we can all choose to use any authority we have to lead ourselves well so that we can lead others well. Just imagine what this would be like. Imagine a world where we all used our authority in ways that show genuine love for God through real love for ourselves and for others. Leading with love looks like making sure the kids you babysit don't just feel physically safe, but they feel like you genuinely care about spending time with them. It looks like using your position as first chair in band to help someone else in your section who could use a little extra guidance. It means treating your younger siblings like you love them because God loves them. Even when they annoy you to your end. I get it. It means standing up for the classmate who's being left out or being made fun of. In other words, in the upside down kingdom, use your power in ways the world least expects it. Listen, gossip, bullying, hate, abuse, murder, genocide, so much of it can be traced back to power without love. And on the other hand, when people use authority in loving ways, the world changes for the better. Hungry people are fed. Hurting people are healed. Desperate people experience hope. This is what authority based in love does. This is what Jesus' upside down kingdom looks like. So what do you want the future to look like? The good news is that every time you have an opportunity that gives you authority, you have the chance to lead with love. And as you head to your small groups today, I'd love for you to think about your answer to this question. Have you ever experienced authority used to build up? And how have you experienced authority used to tear down? And remember, in the upside down kingdom, power is for lifting up, not tearing down.